Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Adcast, a podcast for the study of modern visual culture. I'm your Oshi no Ko, Soup.
And I'm your Oshi, Renu. I'm no one's Oshi. What are we talking about?
You're everyone's Oshi, Renu.
No one's Oshi.
Everyone who listens to the podcast.
No. You're their Oshi.
No. I'm the Oshi
you.
no Ko, because I'm your Ko.
You could be Oshi too.
This episode stands for Absolute Territory because we'll finally be covering the spring 2023 season. But before we get into that, what have we been up to? It has
Everything.
been a long
Nothing.
time.
84 years. Yeah, it's been at least a month and a half since we've recorded, I think. Yeah.
This happened last summer too.
Yeah, it's always around this time of year because I'm traveling all the time doing conventions.
I was gonna say you're like especially busy.
Yeah.
And especially during the times that we might want to record. And like I have also been so busy.
Yeah. Well, I guess we can get into it. I've been at a couple of different conventions. I went to Fan Expo Chicago, and I also went to San Japan. Those were just my two latest ones. I think I stayed home all of July because I was so tired from all the conventions I did in May, June time period. Both the conventions were fine. And I also traveled to Colorado for a bit because my friend is opening a cat cafe over there. And so I ended up flying with one of our foster cats over to go see her and help her set up the cafe. And she's basically going to take in our foster cat as well to be part of the cafe.
Wow.
And it was like the biggest anxiety flying with a cat. Just from me. The cat, he did wonderfully. He did splendidly. He was so good. He didn't complain like a single time. He like let me hold him fine when we had to go through security and they had to scan his like little carrier or whatever. He was so good. Me, I was just a ball of anxiety the entire time. I kept worrying like, oh, how's he gonna do with the takeoff? Because that's really hard on the ears and stuff like that. It's very scary and loud. He was fine. He fell asleep.
Wow.
But it did help that the vet prescribed us like a calming medicine for him, essentially. Yeah. And no, he took to it like really well and he just was asleep during the flight. And so ended up being super easy for him, thankfully. And I was just worried for nothing, which is how it should be. And yeah, I helped my friend paint a mural in her cafe. If you guys are interested, you can see it on my social media somewhere. And it was basically like a mural of kitties at like a bakery or outdoor patio kind of setting. And it's gonna be like one of those things that she wanted basically like a big old statement piece for people when they walk in, they'll see it and maybe they'll want to like take photos in front of it, like that kind of thing. She'll put a couch in front of it so people can like sit in front of it and
Wow.
Do the selfie thing, do the Instagram thing, whatever, to spread the word about the cafe. And basically the cafe is there to they're partnered with a shelter so that all the cats who are at the cafe can be adopted through the shelter program. So
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah, it's a nice way to get these kitties a home and also help people enjoy kitties. Yeah. Yeah, and that's basically what I've been up to. August was just a hot disaster. So
Oh, I bet.
I'm trying to just kind of glaze through it.
No, I completely understand.
Yeah.
August happened.
Yeah.
And like I barely remember any of it really.
Yeah. So what were you up to?
Man, boy, what wasn't I up to?
I know.
So since the last time that we have talked, I have moved house.
Yes.
We basically spent, like 2 or 3 months looking for a place that would be adequate for our needs as a household of 5.
Yeah.
Plus 2 cats.
And cats, yes.
And we eventually found one that we are in now that is pretty nice. It's a fairly large property, especially for the amount of rent that we're paying.
Ooh.
But, obviously, mind you, I live in California where housing prices are just like terrible.
I was gonna say, like, the fact that you even got a good deal out of it is quite impressive.
I say a good deal, and what I mean is, like, we're paying, like, $2 per square foot.
Oh!
Or
That's
maybe
actually
less
not
than
bad.
that. Yeah, maybe less.
For California, yeah.
Yeah, but in California, it's very easy to pay, like, way more, like 3, 4, 5.
Yeah,
even.
exactly, yeah.
And, like, a lot of the properties aren't even that big. They're just inexpensive areas.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, I would love a 2-bedroom rental property for, sorry, what does this say? $15,000 a month? Who's renting this? I learned a lot of really wild things about the rental market here.
Okay.
Because there are a lot of essentially mansion properties that get rented out here for like really obscenely high prices. Because the idea is not that you would live there for like, a year-long lease. The idea is that you would like rent it for like, a YouTube party like month or whatever, right? Like, so this is for like influencers to like rent for a month and make their content or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's still just crazy whenever you see something that's like, oh yeah, $15,000 a month. You do get like 10,000 square feet worth of property to fuck around on, but like, Jesus Christ, that's so much money.
That's crazy.
But anyway, eventually we did find a place. We went through some hustle and bustle. I spent about a week of my life carpet cleaning. Because the weird thing about this place is that the first floor is like, it's just a first floor of a house. It's hardwood. The second floor is actually under the ground. It's like in the basement, right? So it's a basement floor, and it's all carpeted down here. But it also hasn't been rented out in like a while, so all the carpet was kind of gross and musty, and like people were walking all over it when like touring the place. So I spent like a week straight like carpet cleaning it with like one of those like steam cleaners, which doesn't actually use steam. I learned it literally is just soap and water like plus a vacuum. And like using those is surprisingly labor intensive. I gotta tell you. Yeah. You gotta push it across the carpet, and it's like scrubbing. It's got brushies on it.
Yeah, brushies.
You have to pass over like the same spot like 10 times, or else like all the water's gonna stay there, and it's gonna like sit there and not dry properly and get all gross, right? And that would just be a problem. So like, man, and I don't know the last time that these carpets were like really cleaned. Like they cleaned them somewhat before we moved in, but I suspect it was not like a very deep clean. Like it probably was just a cursory, like, we'll vacuum everything and stuff. But like, yeah, I mean, when you do the carpet cleaning and you like pull out the like wastewater tank and it's just like solid gray, you're like, oh, right? Because like that's just all like human skin dust, right? Like,
stop it!
It's so gross.
Stop it.
Really distressing. The stairs are also carpeted, which is honestly kind of nice in many ways, because it means you're not gonna like slip off the stairs, really. But also it's really annoying to carpet clean those. Like I carpet cleaned them and they just like didn't dry properly, so I'm gonna have to go back and do it again. And like they were so gross. Like you can see the areas where it was harder for me to reach, like the corner, like the little like lip basically of it, right?
Okay.
Are like they're like gray in comparison to the color of like the areas that I did go over, which are like the normal carpet color. They're like kind of like a cream color, like a light beige.
Yeah.
So yeah,
that's fun.
Yeah, that's fun. But other than that, like other than that, like the place is fine. Like honestly, the appliances are not as nice as our last place, which is funny for a place that is like almost 3 times as big. But I mean, it's workable. It's not like they're unusable. It's just they could be better, right? For how expensive of a property is, but it's fine. It's livable. We have a place to live, and we have all our stuff set up. We're still in the process of moving all of our crap out of the old place. We still have it for like 2 weeks or so. And we're just gonna spend the next like 2 weeks basically like cleaning that place up so that we might possibly get some of our deposit back. I mean, who knows ever.
Good luck.
Yeah. But yeah, I have been doing that, and that has been a lot of work.
Yeah.
We have to. One of the challenges that we had to do was we had to figure out a way to keep the cats separated, sort of. But more importantly, to keep Cookie off of the carpeted areas, right? Because the carpet ends at the top of the stairs, and Cookie's not allowed on the carpet because she pukes. You know, she throws up on the regular, right? So, like, that's, you know, it's not great on the hardwood, but like it's better than if she got it on the carpet.
Right.
So, yeah, we basically looked through so many different cat gates to find one that would work. And we went through so many convoluted processes to get this thing set up. And, like, we got it set up, and it works fantastically at keeping Cookie from going downstairs. And initially the idea was to keep the cats, like, more or less completely separate when they're not being supervised. Because, like, they don't get along the best, right? Like, Philip is nice and all, but Cookie just, like, fucking hates him.
Sure.
The thing is, though, like, probably 12 or so hours after we installed the gate and the nets on the, like, banisters and stuff, Philip found a way over them. Which is to say, he just fucking leaps from the top stair onto the banister, like, railing, right?
I'm just, like, so not surprised right now.
And, like, at that point, there's, like, nothing we can do about that, right?
Yeah,
like, he just wins.
Yeah, he...
That's his city now.
That's how he lives his life. Yeah. Orange cats always win.
Like, I swear to God, like, he learned how to open so many different kinds of doors. He learned how to open, like, the worst kind of door, like, the day before we, like, started moving a lot of our furniture, which was like terrifying, because we just realized that he had gotten outside into the backyard. And we were like, oh, 'cause it was, like, dark out, right? So, like, you know, if he was, you know, somewhere else in the neighborhood, like, we'd never be able to find him. Luckily, I shook the box of treats, and he just, like, came right up. He was, like, I guess sniffing around in the backyard. But, like, it was a door that was, like, essentially, like, 2, not, like, deadbolts, but, like, you know, the kind of, like, swing, like, you know, hinges, right? Like, you swing them over onto to lock it, right? There's one at the top and one at the bottom. And I guess at some point, somebody unlocked the top one and didn't relock it, and Philip found out how to unlock the bottom one and then just fucking slipped out.
My God.
Just like, man, I don't know, man.
He's an artiste. He escapes.
He is so good at escaping. Like, my roommates, I swear to God, are just like, oh, yeah, it's fine. Like, the sliding glass door, like, it's heavy enough that he won't be able to open it. And I'm just like, you keep that shit locked. He will find a way to open it.
He will find a way. I agree with you.
I promise you. I
agree with you.
If you underestimate him, he will get out.
He will.
This happens every single goddamn time. Anyway.
Philip.
Aside from that, my life has been, I mean, my life has mostly been moving, right? But outside of moving, it has been Baldur's Gate 3.
Oh, yes.
Which came out at a perhaps somewhat inopportune time, considering
Considering you're moving.
I was moving.
Mm-hmm.
But like anytime I wasn't moving, I was basically just playing Baldur's Gate 3. I'm still not done with that game. That game is fucking massive. I'm 170 hours into it.
Really? And you're not done?
I'm like nearing the end, but like,
Wow.
yeah, there's so much you can do in this game. It is crazy.
I didn't realize there was that much content.
Yeah, I think you would really enjoy it. Because
Yeah.
I remember enjoying Divinity Original Sin 2 for what amount we played of it before scheduling became nightmarish. And it's the same studio. It's Larian. So a lot of the sort of like, you know, mechanics are similar, except it's just operating off of the 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons rule set, which is really funny because I know that rule set so stupidly well at this point that like it's like I've already played the game like a couple times in terms of like how well I know what like things will do.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fun. Baldur's Gate 3. I have been really enjoying it. I think the writing is really good.
Okay.
I think that the gameplay has been very engaging. Because it's, you know, the 5th edition rule set. It has really sort of like taught a lot of people something that I already knew, which is that 5th edition basically plays very often like a video game, like a tactical video game, which is like, I mean, that's like kind of where Dungeons and Dragons sort of like draws its lineage, right? It comes from wargaming, right? So it's not unusual for that to be the case, but like, I think because 5th edition is less structured somewhat than 4th edition, people don't realize just how much of a combat tactics game it is. Or they purposefully blind themselves to that fact. But I think this has really made it clear to a lot of people that, like, actually, yeah, like, this is a rule set that is for one thing, which is, you know, this. But no, it's super fun, and I think that the video game adaptation has added a lot of really interesting things, adapted some things in interesting ways, and made some balance changes to certain things that are much welcome, just in general, but like also in like for formatting it for a video game, you know, it makes sense.
Okay.
There are certain things that the game does which are fun that you could not easily port over into the tabletop game, just because video games can get away with a lot of automatic calculation that is super annoying at the table, right? So, for instance, guidance is one of the best cantrips in the game, numerically speaking, right? Because it lets you add 1d4 to your ability checks, and like you can just have that basically all the time. But like, it's really annoying every time you make a skill check to be like, I cast guidance first. But in a video game, it's just like a little toggle. You just click it. You're like, yeah, give me, add some guidance to that, and then you roll it, and then like it doesn't slow the game down at all, right? Because it's a video game. They can have special conditions that mean different things, and like automatically calculate like what this and that does.
Sure.
And have like stacking modifiers, which is cool and great and fun, and would be an absolute nightmare to run in a tabletop setting. So, in that respect, I think there are some places in which the game is a more enjoyable experience.
Interesting.
And this is something that I see a lot in the sort of like design space of like homebrew 5th edition stuff, which is that people adapt video game things like kind of one-to-one, and that means like using a lot of like stacking modifiers and like conditionals. And like the problem with that is that the game is just not really like the tabletop game is just not really built for that, because you have to do all of the math yourself, and you gotta roll all the dice, and anything that you add that adds another like level of dice rolling is like something that is gonna inevitably slow the game down, right? Like,
right, yeah.
It is super easy to have a sword that causes everybody you hit to make a saving throw against Bane. But like, let's say you're a 4th level, or let's say you're like a 20th level fighter. You can make 4 attacks. Like, that's 4 extra rolls. Like, that's like doubling the amount of time your turn takes for, you know. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
anyway.
can imagine, that the game format would, like having a computer basically calculate all of that for you. It's way more convenient.
It's nice. And also, like, it's just nice getting to play a tabletop game, essentially, that you don't have to really, like, work for. Like, I don't have to prep shit.
You just go.
The
game is right there. Yeah.
It seems like a lot of fun to play multiplayer as well. You can play with up to 4 people.
Oh.
Yeah, and then you can just play a little D&D game together. And
cute.
Yeah, it's in Baldur's Gate, which is, you know, the Faerun Sword Coast sort of setting, one of the D&D settings, TMCR.
Uh-huh.
The previous 2 Baldur's Gate games, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got all the licensed goodness. You can cast all the magic missiles you want. You know, beholders and shit, and you're allowed to say saving throw or whatever, right?
It is D&D.
It's D&D.
Approved D&D.
It's a good game. It is an absolutely crazy game, too, if you play it. Because if you think for even a split second about, like, how much work it must have taken to make the game, like, your eyes are going to start spinning. Like I said, this game is fucking massive, right? And it's been in development forever, right?
That's so
I have
cool.
no idea how long it's been in development, like at least 5 years, right?
Yeah.
Maybe even longer than that.
Yeah.
But it's huge. This game is so big and deep. And there are, I think, like, you know, like Larian is a good studio for, traditionally has been a good studio for adapting, you know, tabletop games. There's so many, like, weird interactions that, like, you're like, does this work? Could this work? Like, is this the solution to the puzzle? Could it be, though? It's a little complicated. And you do it, and it works, and you're like, oh, they thought of it. They thought about it. They thought about what would happen if you did this. Like, the game is still kind of buggy in places, and it's not very well optimized, and it's also fucking huge in terms of the file sizes. Like, it's like 140 gigabytes or something. It's so big.
Oh my god.
Loading screens just take forever because the game is so goddamn big.
Oh, sure.
But, like, it's super fun. Everything is voice acted, which is really charming.
Oh,
there's
wow.
Like a
that's a lot of dialogue.
Yeah, it's a lot of dialogue. There's a narrator that, like, basically reads lines to you like a DM would, which is really cool. Very fun. It captures the spirit in a very, very charming way. So yeah, that has been an enjoyable video game. One that has consumed my life over the past however many weeks that I've had it. I'm nearing the end of it. I can see the finish line. And as soon as I finish it, I'm immediately going to start a new character campaign and do that.
I was up to you, like, what are you going to do after Baldur's Gate? And it's like, well, obviously play more Baldur's Gate.
That's when Baldur's Gate begins, obviously. So anyway, that covers basically what I've been up to. If we want to talk about anime. We are so fucking late to talk about the spring season, considering we're like most of the way through the summer season now.
Well, we're just gonna have to bang them out.
Yeah, luckily the summer season is not like, it's not terribly exciting, all things considered.
Yeah.
Like, there's, like, a couple shows that we're interested in and then we're watching, and outside of that, like, everything else is just kind of personal preference. It's kind of up to you.
Yep.
That's kind of the way I see it. Like, there's some stuff that, like, I think is, like, worthwhile to watch or to give a chance no matter what. And then, like, a lot of times, like, a lot of the other stuff is really just personal preference about what you prefer to watch in anime.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, yeah.
Speaking of, the first anime we'll talk about is Yuri Is My Job, which we watched an episode of because it just took a really hilariously dramatic turn at the end of the trailer, and we just had to know what the fuck was going on.
We had to know.
We watched an episode. I don't remember much about it because we watched it so long ago, but I remember that immediately after watching the first episode, I went and I read the manga, and it is like surprisingly spicy drama. There is some really there's some really juicy emotional sort of strife, shall I say. Some relationship drama in surprisingly unexpected ways, right? Like in ways that I wasn't necessarily expecting, but which have nonetheless been delightful, and delightful in the watching a car crash happen. A masterfully put together car crash in slow motion. Yeah.
Did you like it?
I really enjoyed it.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it.
I haven't read the manga or watched any more of the anime, so I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't finish the anime, so I can't really tell you too much about that. It looked fine, I think. But yeah, the manga story is definitely good, so I highly recommend giving it a read. It is surprisingly juicy, is what I'll say.
If you want some juicy drama in your life.
Juicy drama!
Juicy.
I love it. Okay, my love story with Yamada-kun at level 999, which I have read the manga for ages ago.
Oh, okay.
And the anime adaptation was pretty straightforward, yeah. I would say.
Yeah, I haven't read the manga, so I don't know how it compares, but I did watch all of the anime.
Okay.
Yeah. It did, and, well, I guess the setup, since we're doing sampler and wrap up.
Yeah.
Yeah, is, this girl gets dumped by her boyfriend for another player in an MMO game. And so she ends up, getting into the MMO to figure out, what's so good about it. And, she ends up meeting a fellow player, IRL, and kind of very slowly starts connecting with him, and then they eventually, start getting feelings for each other. Ooh,
Ooh, feelings.
Ooh, feelings. And yeah, it didn't sidetrack too deeply off of, what the initial setup was. I would say that it kind of veered. So the first episode was hilarious, right? It was mostly making fun of the main girl at her expense kind of deal because she was such a mess.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it gets into more of the very light and fluffy romance stuff and less about the comedy stuff. So I guess if that's your preference, then that's good. For me, I really liked the comedy stuff, so I was a little disappointed that it kind of fell off of that front, but the romance stuff was still good. It's a very light, slow developing romance.
That's what I remember from the manga.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if the adaptation is, good, highly recommend watching it then, if that's your bag.
Yeah, it didn't have any particular flaws or anything. I would say it was a very solid watch. The pacing is a little on the slower side, but deliberate, It didn't feel like it was dragging too much at any point. The characters are fine. I ended up liking them a lot more than I thought that I would from the beginning.
Yeah, that's always nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the Marginal Service. Do you remember anything about this anime?
I remember we saw the promotional material, right? And it was all the characters basically naked.
Yes, I remember
so
that
I thought
part.
I thought it would be a fan servicey kind of series. And then I remembered we watched it and it wasn't like that hardly at all. It was there was some weird action oriented plot, which I kind of thought that it would have action, but it was weirdly serious. Even though all of the promotional material makes it seem like a lighthearted comedy, a wacky kind of action type of deal.
Yeah.
I think they introduced like the rest of the cast like kind of late into the episode too, and so like we were left kind of lost in the beginning, because again the trailer just didn't match up with the show at all.
Yeah, okay. So
yeah.
I just pulled up the like synopsis of this show.
Yeah.
And I vaguely remember it being like kind of a Sentai show, but like not quite. And it's about aliens. Alien terrorists.
Uh-huh.
So I guess so. Yeah, this was very underwhelming.
It was, yeah.
The promotional material looked so fun and over the top.
Yeah.
And then, like, the first episode was, like, exceedingly bland.
Yes. Yeah.
So it really, really just turned me off just from that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, at least give me a little more of that. I mean, come on.
At least give me a little of the fan service.
I want somebody to take their shirt off. I don't care who it is.
Yeah, it was very misleading. So I don't know if it would have been better to just watch it without any of the promotional material, but I think even then,
I don't know.
The episode,
yeah,
even then, the pilot, the first episode where you're supposed to sell the audience on the concept, and he's usually the one that has the most budget and everything, the most tightly written, didn't grab me at all. Right? I was still in the end trying to figure out what the point of the show was by the first episode. And that's not at all what you want from a first episode. You want it to convey your concept very clearly so that people know what the hook is, and then they can get on with the rest of the show. Yeah, so I don't know about this one.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty easy pass for most people. It really feels a lot like one of those, like, so the thing is that, like, every anime season has the kind of, like, it's basically like filler anime, right? It's like original anime that, like, is an action-oriented show. It's not really particularly about anything, and, you know, it just is there to watch action scenes happen, and, like, I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so. You know,
I guess so.
Yeah, it's fine. It's not. It was just boring. Anyway, Hell's Paradise, which I did not watch past the first episode. I don't know about you.
No, I did not either.
Okay.
I know it's based on a very popular Shonen Jump series. Yeah. And yeah, it was interesting, right? The first episode. It centers around this guy who looks like he's gonna be executed for a thing, and then there's kind of like wants to be executed, but he doesn't want to be executed, and then you're trying to figure out what this guy's deal is, and then you find out there's some interesting drama happening in his life involving him needing to save him wife,
Yeah,
his love, and yeah, and basically he is assigned with the task of jumping into hell in order to save his wife. And it seems like it's a really good series. It's really popular. I think the anime has been well received. Yeah, for me, I don't know why the first episode of the anime didn't really grab me. I was vaguely interested in it, right? It wasn't like it was bad or anything. I guess maybe it wasn't particularly my cup of tea. Or maybe I might be better off like reading the manga instead of watching the anime. But yeah, I don't have any complaints about it necessarily.
I felt very similarly, where I know this is a very popular series, and I know a lot of people really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But the first episode definitely didn't like, I was interested.
Yeah.
But I wasn't, like, compelled.
Right, yeah. Uh-huh.
Because, like, the sort of theoretical concept of it is interesting. It's kind of like, oh, like a weird, like, you know, hell paradise, right? It's like, and there was weird, like, transformation flower stuff happening. It was kind of like Annihilation, if you've ever watched or read Annihilation.
Yeah.
And that was intriguing to me, but yeah, it just like wasn't. It just didn't really capture me with the first episode. I might go back and read the manga at some point.
That's how I feel. I might go back and read the manga and see if that
see if that does anything for me.
Right, yeah.
All right. KamiKatsu, which is this show was really fucking wild. I remember because we were watching it and we didn't know that like a random fucking like stock CGI monster would show up just completely unrendered. Right? Like
juicy.
Uncomposited. It's just
very
it's just
good.
In there.
Very good.
This anime feels like it was bad on purpose, which is really funny.
I think I think you're right.
Doesn't it kind of feel like it was bad on purpose? It
feels like it. Yeah, you're kind of right.
Like
yeah.
It kind of feels like when you like know that you can't do something like well enough in the time frame that you're given, like your assignment. So you just like half-ass it. You're just like you go back and you change all of the like spaces to be like 2 font sizes larger so that nobody notices, but like it's still like 5 pages long or whatever.
Yeah, they very clearly, I think, were aware that they didn't have the budget to pull off the things that they wanted to, and they just ran with it, almost like Gintama style. They just
yeah. I went back and I read the manga for this and just what existed, and right now I remember almost nothing about it. It wasn't particularly interesting. I'm pretty sure that like there wasn't a ton of it translated also. I feel like this is one of those things that you could watch with like a bunch of friends for like a good time.
Okay.
Like just because of how fucking bonkers it is. Like really it might not be a good anime. I can almost certainly say, having only seen the first episode, that it's not a good anime. I don't think it's going to suddenly pivot in the last like 2 episodes into being like god tier anime. But there is just something so respectable about making an anime and just like not giving a shit. Just like, listen, I'm not getting paid enough for this. You want me to composite this monster so it looks even vaguely like it belongs in this world? Pay me more. Give me more time.
No.
Honestly,
then you get what you
get. Okay. My Home Hero, which I didn't watch any more of. It looks like you didn't either.
No, I didn't.
But was interesting.
It was interesting. The drama, it's basically a suspense drama about we didn't even explain the KamiKatsu like conceit, which is I think the most hilarious part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, My Home Hero is basically about these 2 parents who find out that their daughter is dating basically a dirtbag who abuses her. And the father accidentally kills the guy and to death. And then the mom walks in on it and she decides to help him cover up for his crime.
That was my favorite part.
They both want to protect their daughter. Yeah.
That was my favorite part of the episode, which is when like he kills the fucking guy and then the mom walks in and is like, oh my god, what happened? He's like, I killed him. And she's like, okay, let's hide the body. Like immediately she's on board.
Action mode.
She's like, fuck, let's clean this up, man. Let's deal with it.
So you want to get caught or something? Come on.
Come on. Like, mom's hardcore, Jesus.
She was so hardcore. We were the most shocked by mom, honestly, during that episode. So yeah, I am interested in watching more, just because like the budget itself seems kind of mid, and the way that the story opened is very like like it could go in any direction, I feel like.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that tends to lend itself to some very wild storytelling.
I feel like it could very much like be like a Breaking Bad style, like like how much will you dig yourself into the world of crime, and like how much will you do and justify to like achieve what you want, and like that kind of stuff. Or it could just like I don't even know what direction it could go in, to be honest. It could be anything.
It could be anything.
I am also interested in watching some more of it at some point. It's not a huge priority for me, but I was interested enough to be intrigued.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, like I would not be upset watching more of it. Just the timing didn't work out.
Yeah.
Okay. Dead Mount Death Play, which was also kind of wild, actually. It's basically about like the final boss of an isekai world getting isekai'd into the modern day. So really it's like a reverse isekai in like every way.
Yeah.
It was not too terrible. They set some stuff up that I was intrigued by, that I would be interested in seeing more of.
Yeah, apparently people who have watched it say that it's actually not bad. I genuinely didn't know what to make of it from the first episode, because it just kind of introduced so many things rather quickly.
Yeah.
And it kind of like leaves you like, what did I just watch? Like that kind of feeling. So maybe in subsequent episodes, it kind of it'll let you digest the content a bit more.
I feel like the way that I would put it is, I don't know how I felt about it, but like in a not bad way.
Okay. Yeah. I think it has the potential to be interesting with more time to like explain its concepts and where it's going a bit better. Because it did introduce quite a few interesting elements, right? You've got the bad guy who's now like pretty boy animu teenage boy. Yeah, and then you've got the crazy girl that they introduced at the end, whom he killed, but then she popped right back up. They have the introduction of his magical powers and kind of how they work in the modern world. And the fact that he'll probably run into some of the heroes because the heroes are looking for him. They'll probably end up popping into the modern world too. So it's got some elements that are moving. I think could be interesting.
Always interested in the concept of a reverse isekai, and like this one I feel like is doubly so interesting just because it's about the villain. I would definitely watch more of this. I think next season, more like a second season of it, or a second core or something is coming out, so it might be worth catching up on.
True, yeah.
I will see if I have time to watch it, and then I'll get back to you about it if I do.
Okay.
Or if you find you have some extra time and you feel like watching something.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Let's see. Insomniacs After School. Was, it was pretty cute, pretty slow, deliberate. It feels very like on the most extreme end of like a slow kind of like honobono, like fua show.
Yeah.
It's like it's a show that's not in a particular rush to do anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine for what kind of show it is. I think that works.
Yeah. It's very straightforward. you are introduced to the two main characters. They bond over the fact that they can't sleep at home. Like, they're both insomniacs.
Yeah,
and they
they're
find,
just like nocturnal.
Yeah, they find a mutual napping spot at school. That's like the best one that they've been. It's the place where they're actually able to get some sleep. And they discuss how to share it, essentially, and through circumstances, through spending time together, you would imagine that they fall in love, and because it's a seinen romance. So
yeah.
yeah, it is exactly what it is on the tin, I think.
I will say I really do enjoy the concept of just like a grounded, realistic, slow building romance. Because I feel like it's not something that is like super common in like anime. Like, there's a lot of romance and like shoujo stuff out there, but like seinen romance is like a very niche category.
Yeah, I think because generally when you have a seinen romance, it's like, why not make it a live action instead?
I guess that's fair. Yeah, make it a drama.
Yeah, make it a drama. So I'm not upset that they made an anime out of it, because, you know, they can do some interesting stuff with like, I don't know, like showing nighttime scenery or animating it in a certain way that like really makes it exciting or pretty, you know.
Yeah, I would say that this like really feels like a slice of life in the very literal sense of like a depiction of life.
Yeah. So if you want almost like an old school romance, this could be your thing.
Yeah. Like a you know, a more grounded take on a romance, which you know what? Fair enough.
Yeah, why not?
All right, opposite of grounded, Konosuba, an explosion on this wonderful world, which is about everybody's favorite explosion wizard, Megumin, and her backstory.
We watched an episode.
It was Konosuba.
Yeah, it was
Konosuba
actually...
as fuck.
Yeah, it wasn't like a weird spin-off or anything. It was very on tone for Konosuba.
Yeah, I don't remember if this is its own spin-off in the light novel / manga, or if it's just like bonus chapters, but like I definitely read it before, and
oh, okay.
I don't remember how much of it is relevant, but I mean, it's like, it is exactly what it is, right? It's Konosuba, and it's about like, you know, the most popular character from Konosuba.
Yeah.
You're either gonna enjoy that or you're not going to enjoy that. Like, it's not gonna magically make you like Konosuba if you don't like it, and it's
right, yeah.
You know, and it's not gonna necessarily wow you if you already do like Konosuba. You'll just sit there and you'll watch, like, you know, more Konosuba. Yeah. I mean, it is one of those things where you'll know if you like it or not.
Yeah, if you want more Konosuba, there it is.
I don't think you need the context of the main series to watch this, because it's essentially like backstory material. So, I mean, if you want to like start, you could potentially start here. It's like fine. I wouldn't say it's particularly good or bad place to start. I would just start at season 1, but that's just me.
Yeah.
All right, Mashle, which
Mashle.
This manga just finished.
Oh, really?
I read the last chapter like just a couple weeks ago.
Oh.
And it is about a wizard society. Right, everybody can use magic, except for the people who can't use magic, who are oppressed, because of course they are, right? And so it's about the misadventures of Mash, who is a person who cannot use magic, but is extremely strong and buff and can use his muscles for just truly absurd things.
Him strong.
It's a pretty decent adaptation of the manga. And it does a good job of... I haven't watched past the first episode, mind you, but it does a good job of translating a lot of the humor of you know, of the series, which is good because like it's actually like, you know, it's like a shonen comedy series, like more comedy than shonen, and like it is legitimately very funny. I think the comedy is like really, really good.
Yeah. The episode that we watched was hilarious, and I was like, okay, I kind of want to watch more. This is great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, if you're interested in a comedy series, yeah, do it up.
Do it. So next was Blue Orchestra, which I watched an episode of because I love my music anime, and this is definitely a music anime.
It is a music anime.
It is about a boy who's a violinist, and he's just got all the troubles of the world on his shoulders. He doesn't want to play violin anymore, even though he's great at it. I mean, if you watch music anime, you've seen this conceit like 10,000 million times. It's like the one that they always use, right?
Of course.
Yeah, and then there's this girl at school who's like interested in violin. She's starting to get into it, but she clearly doesn't know what she's doing because she's just a beginner. And he's basically assigned in a way to like kind of like help her learn to do the violin, and she starts inspiring him to actually start liking the violin again. But initially they're both very annoying people. Both the girl and the guy are very unlikable. And I was like, oh no, what's gonna happen? Like, I stopped mid-episode and I was like, what am I gonna do? I hate both of these characters. And I was like, okay, I'll just finish until the end of the episode. Okay, I'll just reserve judgment till the end of the episode. Please, for the love of God, do something. I didn't have much hope. But by the end of the episode, I came around a little because even though they're both highly unlikable, them bickering is very funny. And it kind of like makes them more likable in a sense, right?
Yeah.
And they kind of like push each other to that limit of like, in a way, like improving each other, right? Because they're very ready to point out each other's flaws. And I think that in a way kind of helps them be less crappy people.
Yeah.
So I think that's the direction that the story is going to go, that she'll continue to kind of inspire him to be better, and to accept playing the violin again, and he'll also push her to be better, and they'll hopefully both be better people by the end of the goddamn series.
One can only dream.
Yeah, so that's Blue Orchestra right there. Couple of unlikable high schoolers playing violin.
Cool. Speaking of unlikable high schoolers, the danger's in my heart. So like it has been okay. I remember reading the synopsis for this, not knowing anything about it, and it was kind of baffling. Because he's like, I want to kill someone.
Yes.
And then you watch the episode and he's like, wait, this isn't the feeling of wanting to murder someone. What is this? I don't think I understand the conceit of this show. I don't understand. Like, why was it set up like this? It feels like so irrelevant.
I think I understand what they're trying to do, right? It's a bit of a coming of age kind of thing where it's like, it's this boy. It's kind of like when a child has their first crush and they don't know how to react to it. And so, a lot of kids, when they, have a crush and they don't know how to react, they just kind of like act emotionally, and then they like end up bullying the person that they like or something like that, right? This feels like a more extreme version of it where rather than wanting to bully her, he wants to kill her. But then he can't ever actually work up to it.
Right.
Because he obviously that's not actually what he wants, right? He wants to be closer to her. Also, but he doesn't realize that.
Look at this kid. He can't murder. Listen, this is, if you've ever wanted to watch a show about an incel turning into a real human being, maybe, ? I guess this is it for you. Like, it was okay? ? question mark. It didn't really capture me, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, it didn't really capture me either, but it wasn't badly done at all, I don't think. Even with the wild premise, like, the actual show itself and the storytelling, like, I understood what was going on and what they were trying to go for.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't badly animated or anything either, so, yeah. If you want a boy who is having trouble coming to terms with his feelings, and hopefully by the end he does, this is the show for you.
All right, Demon Slayer Swordsmith Village arc, which was more Demon Slayer. It is more Demon Slayer. It sure is.
More Demon Slayer?
It's the Demon Slayer of all time. I mean, we're like well enough far into Demon Slayer at this point that, like, is there any point to talking about it? Right? Like, at least until it's, like, over, right? Like, we've sort of covered a lot of the sort of thematic meat of it at the beginning and sort of in the middle. And, like, we're, like, in the latter half of the series, which it's a little faster than one would expect. And I think, like, actually, when I think about it, the last episode of this season was pretty good.
Oh yeah, the last episode, I think it was like wasn't it like a double header last episode?
I think so. I think it was a double length.
Yeah, it was a double length episode. And yeah, that was like the big gut punch of the arc, which I think the last arc also was like not last arc, the one before that. Yeah. Yeah, so I would say in terms of like the emotional conclusion of the arc, like that was like really, really well done. It like it really hits you like way harder than the ending of the arc prior to this one, the entertainment district one. But I would say the stuff leading up to it, while it was good, it didn't like, I guess, like compel me as much as some of the previous arcs did.
I think what it is just trying to adapt a relatively short arc into an entire season, which they've done like twice now, right? Like these, like the thing about the manga is that it's actually not that long, all things considered. Like it's over, it's done, and it honestly is like it goes pretty fast, and I think that they are trying to adapt more of it, like adapt it arc by arc, and it's not bad per se, but it does mean that the pace gets slowed down like a lot compared to the manga, and it can very easily become like, oh, this is like shonen padding, right? Because there is just a lot of like people talking about what's going on in like their heads or whatever. It's like, oh no, this is happening, no, and that happens for like 3 episodes in a row. It's I wouldn't say it's bad per se. It does kind of feel like Ufotable was phoning in most of the season, which I say, but like Ufotable phoning it in is like already better quality than like most anime that will air in any season. So like
yeah.
You do have to kind of just respect the hustle, like they're just having fun. They're having fun compositing and shit, as they always do.
Yeah, visually they were still having fun with it and experimenting with things, like pushing some of the animation to the limits, like especially towards the later half of the arc. But I would say like in terms of like the story pacing, the plot and stuff, like it was just kind of like it was a bit
normal slow.
Yeah.
I think that this and Entertainment District could have easily been like combined into one season.
Yeah,
and
I would tend to agree.
It should have been.
Yeah. They both felt a little stretched out.
Yeah. And I think that problem would have been solved if they had just done it that way.
Yeah.
Which I will say, like, I do kind of understand, because like having 2 seasons means, well, I mean, one, it means you make more money, right? But like, and it's one of the most popular properties that's like, happening, right? But it also means that you get to have like different openings and endings, and that can be thematically important. I think some shows have changed mid-season. I don't remember. I couldn't name one off the top of my head, but like I feel like you could have just done that. Like the openings and endings are always good though, and the animation is always good.
Yeah.
And no one composites quite like Ufotable.
Yeah, no, the animation is always like excellent, because they have the budget to do it.
Yeah, they have the budget and the workflow.
Yeah,
like they got it down. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Maybe honestly watching because at some point they're probably going to compile these into like movie, like recap movies or whatever.
Yes.
Right. I think those might honestly play better.
You know what? I think you're probably right.
That is my prediction. That's my
I think you're probably right.
Glimpse into the future. Like that will probably be the optimal way to watch. Like it's not that any of the content is bad necessarily. It just feels very stretched out, and you can kind of tell where they've added a lot of story padding. Which isn't like, necessarily a knock against the show. It's just it's just like they decided to adapt a relatively short arc into a full season of anime, which is, when you're at the point where when you don't have enough material to adapt, you have to start filling in the blanks, which is like you're adding filler at that point. And I think, like, to their credit, they're not doing a bad job of it. Like, it doesn't feel like One Piece, where like you get like 10 minutes of like the previous episode and and then you get like 5 minutes of content, and then the ending plays and you get a preview of the next episode. Next episode plays, it's like 10 minutes of the previous episode, etc., etc., etc. It's not quite that. But it is clearly padded for time.
Yeah, didn't we run into this problem too when we were watching the train arc, the anime season version of it? Like, we started it.
Oh yeah, I think the train arc also, the anime was fine, and the movie version was fine, and like you could very easily just watch that and not watch the series version and be completely fine.
Yeah, the series version like added a bunch of content that wasn't there and stretched out a bunch of stuff too, and it just wasn't like the timing just felt super stretched out. Like, it wasn't good.
I feel like the thing is that a lot of people criticize the Demon Slayer manga for moving very quickly and not filling out a lot of stuff, which is why I assume that they are adapting it this way. But to be honest, I feel like that honestly, like in some ways that is kind of like the strength of Demon Slayer, is the fact that it can just kind of run through all that stuff and you get to see a lot of cool action and exciting stuff happen. And like, I really think that is the big highlight. And that the amount of buildup is like disproportionate to the amount of like payoff that you're getting. But the finale was good, right? And like that's the moment that's like very clearly like a pivotal moment in the manga.
Yes.
And they really, really did it justice.
They sold that.
I was gonna say they produced it, directed it very well, to just to make sure everybody remembers like what the hell's going on with, with Tanjiro. They're like, you may have forgotten, but they're doing this because of family.
Family.
Okay. So Oshi no Ko, which had the most bonkers first episode, just in terms of like the fact that it was a triple header, and like we didn't realize until we were like well into the second part of it. It's like,
really, this feels kind of long.
Yeah, just like, how long have we been watching this? And we're like 40 minutes in, and there's still like 20 minutes left, and we're like, oh my god, we're watching a movie. And like, okay, I understand why they did it. It's fucking bonkers.
I completely understand why they did it. It was such a bold decision, and I totally get it, though.
I really respect the fact that they just committed to that. Like,
they really committed.
It's not the most like groundbreaking like, plot twist of all time, right?
No.
But I think that, like, the fact that they committed to adapting the entire beginning, like, setup in one episode and shifting the tone just appropriately enough to capture that feeling, I think they kind of nailed it.
Yeah, I think they did a good job. I'm not upset that it was a triple header, because I wasn't like bored necessarily. I was just surprised that we were still watching the first episode by the time that we were.
Wait, how long have we been watching this? Oh,
yeah, and we were like, wait, why would they do this? And then we watched till the end, and we were like, okay, that's why. We understood the purpose of it. For anyone who doesn't know Oshinoko, you've certainly seen it around by now because it was the most popular show of the season. It is about this idol who's named Ai. She's amazing. She captures everyone with her big star eyes. She ends up pregnante by someone. We don't know who. Yeah. And the doctor who takes care of her ends up getting murdered. He and along with a terminally ill patient whom he was taking care of as well, who's also a fan of Ai and who basically inspired him to be a fan of Ai as well. They both die around the same time, and they get reincarnated as her twin children. And they just kind of like live their lives with her. They start growing up. They're little toddlers and become little kids. And then she gets murdered.
She gets fucking murdered by a stalker fan.
Yeah. And the series then continues with the two children growing up and into beautiful little anime high schoolers with sparkle. One sparkle eye each.
Oh, you betcha.
And they are one of them wants to become an idol like her mom, and the boy, angsty teenage boy he wants to solve the murder of his mother's murder. And that's the conceit of the show.
Yep. It's pretty good. I think
it's well told, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's well told. It's well animated. It is like, I think it's pretty decently adapted. Is kind of what it feels like to me. Like, I obviously haven't read the manga. I probably will go back and read it because I'm interested in the plot. It has kind of a bonkers mix of tones because
yes.
like you have this like giga murder like coupled with idol stuff, and then also like this slice of life like high school stuff.
Yes.
I think there is some like real enjoyable character dynamics to be found here though. I find that the characters tend to be pretty distinctive and unique, and watching them interact with each other is a joy.
Yeah, so anyone who doesn't know, it's by the same author who did Kaguya-sama. So if you the thing is like you can like Kaguya-sama and probably not like Oshinoko because they're so vastly different.
They're very different shows.
They're such different shows that you would be shocked to know that it was by the same person. But they are both, like, I would say equally well done. They're both really, really good. Yeah.
I think it's interesting because it's not normal that a person like that a mangaka with a wildly successful manga pivots to essentially what's a different genre.
Yeah. Oh, this man's pivoted.
Oh, he pivoted. He pivoted.
He did a great job too. Yeah. So
and the opening is by Yoasobi, and it goes fucking hard.
It freaking be slapping.
It was without a doubt the opening of the season. just by how many like TikTok memes there were about it, I'm assuming it feels like a very TikTokable
has sung
song.
It. Yeah.
Yeah, that song bangs.
Covered it. Yep.
Okay, Skip and Loafer, which was probably in any other season would have been my favorite thing that aired. Because
I think
so
it's my
cute.
favorite thing.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I would say that this was a hard season to rank and judge because of how much good stuff was airing.
Yeah.
Skip and Loafer to me is like one of those shows that like I'll carry with me everywhere.
All right.
It is so cute.
Yeah, it's a really well done show, series, I should say, that feels like a somewhat modern-ish take on really old-fashioned, like, 90s romance manga, shoujo manga.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, like it's refreshing, but still has like the art style and some of the tropes that you like from like the 90s, from those older shoujo series, but it has like the open-mindedness of a modern day series. Yeah.
It feels like what stuff in the 90s and 2000s should have been like.
Yeah, like we talked about, I think we talked about it kind of briefly with Fruits Basket. Because that's obviously from the era, right? And it has some of the older sensibilities, but it does have a certain open-mindedness to it, but just not like it. But it is still kind of held back by older sensibilities, I feel like, in certain ways. Skip and Loafer doesn't quite have that, right? It treats each character with like such an immense amount of respect and acceptance, that you feel charmed by, I would say, basically every character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really enjoy how nuanced every character is. Like,
yeah.
None of them are like super straightforward, like, except for maybe like the main character, and that's kind of like the point, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just love that there's like this very explicit sense of interiority to like every character.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels so how do I put this? It just feels so pleasant, you know?
Yes.
Like, it's a pleasant show in general, but it just feels so
Yes.
like nice, pleasant, and refreshing to have like
Yes.
a series where like everything is just treated with like a baseline amount of respect and care.
Mm-hmm.
And the animation is good.
Mm-hmm.
The story is it's a slice of life show,
Mm-hmm.
but it's very enjoyable to watch. It has probably, if I had to think off the top of my head, probably one of the best handling of a trans woman in any anime. Because God knows Japan has so much baggage with that. But like, man, the very like, just the very like subtle, almost, I would say, or like gentle way that it kind of handles it is so delightful.
It was
like,
very refreshing that it wasn't like super in your face about it. It was just like, here's the character, here's how, here's how this character feels about them, and so on, and like that's it.
I really enjoyed that the kind of introduction that we get to now is like people kind of staring at the subway because she's like tall and she has like an Adam's apple, right?
Yeah.
Which are these very like obvious signs, right, that someone might be trans. And it's not like this, the show doesn't ignore the fact that there is a sort of like perception around like trans people,
right.
But at the same time it is so like welcoming and accepting of it that like the characters are like, oh yeah, this is my aunt, right? Like there's no, it doesn't feel like there's any like, oh, this is the harsh reality of being trans, misgender, right? It's just like, oh yeah, this is my aunt, she's a little different, that's fine.
Yeah,
everyone's like, yeah, cool, all right.
Yeah, they don't ham it up too much in that regard. They do like kind of give you the impression as to what struggles Now goes through in terms of like expressing a few of Nao's insecurities, but never to the extent of like it takes over her character. It doesn't take over the show or anything like that. It's like it treats Nao with the same gentleness it does all of the other characters, which I think is so good.
She is the best character.
Yes. She's great. And yeah, the show, I mean, we said it was a slice of life, but yeah, it's about the main character. She's kind of like a go-getter, but she's from the countryside. She's adjusting to school in the big city, and she inspires this guy who is who takes life a bit more slowly, right? He's like that classic like ikemen kind of dude at school, but he kind of like has his head in the clouds. She catches his eye, and he kind of like gets attached to her, and then you kind of feel like, oh, are they gonna fall in love? But it's very, very slow burning. Yeah. And it's very sweet the way that they support each other. So it's a cute show.
It is such an exceptionally well done, cute show.
Yeah.
It's so gentle. So gentle.
Very gentle.
This is the kind of anime you watch when you have like a stomach ache.
Yeah.
You're like,
true.
Oh, I don't feel so good. Better put on Skip and Loafer. Okay. Mobile Suit Gundam, Witch from Mercury. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo.
Oh boy, you don't watch this when you have a stomach ache.
Yeah, this'll really mess up your insides. Man, it sure is the Gundam anime of all time.
It is one of the it is like one of the most concise Gundam shows that I've ever watched.
Yeah.
I was genuinely shocked that
it was over, right?
It was over. It ended where it ended, and I was like, what, we don't have like 50 more episodes of like putzing about in space?
That's what I was really
politics?
surprised about as well.
Yeah. It's not like that I dislike that kind of thing, but I just was surprised because it's such a Gundam homestay at this point to just have it be like 100 episodes long.
Witch from Mercury, the thing that I really enjoyed about it was that it never at any point feels like it's resting on its laurels. Like every moment feels so well considered for the larger like plot and pacing. And like it was a joy to watch every episode. A lot of episodes leave off on cliffhangers so intense you're just like, I can't wait another week.
I know. It's a very compelling show. I was when it ended, I was like, oh, I guess they did wrap up everything that they set up. Really, like I can't think of anything that's left, you know.
Yeah,
and then and that was it. Yeah, I was like, yeah, I guess that's where it should end. Yeah, all right, okay, cool.
Also, they get married. They are canonically married.
Yeah,
married so canonically.
Sorry, spoilers, but also by this point they were kind of leading up to it anyway because this is the second season.
I would say it is so okay. It is the amount of unambiguous that you can be on Japanese television. Especially for a big property like Gundam.
Yeah, so like I would say the last time that they were this straightforward about it was just like Yuri on Ice.
Right.
The Witch from Mercury is about as straightforward as Yuri on Ice. They didn't have like a smooch. I'm so sorry.
They didn't smooch.
I'm so sorry. But
they were wearing wedding rings, and
they had wedding bands,
and there was a comment about like sister-in-law or whatever, and like
yes,
it is canon. Like,
they are married. I mean, they talked about being a bride, her being the bride or whatever too from the beginning. So you knew from the beginning.
It's so unambiguous about it. It's nice that they managed to just be like, they're married.
Yeah, and even all of the boy love interests were taken care of in terms of, like, those were resolved, you know? It wasn't, like, left hanging in the air. Like, those feelings as well. Yeah, I was very impressed by this particular Gundam series. I think during our first analysis of it, we said that it was one of the most approachable Gundam series so far, and I would say, since having watched all of it now, I would continue to say that wholeheartedly. This is one of the most approachable Gundam series ever. If you ever want to get into Gundam, I
would agree. It is. Yeah. I mean, especially because it's like not terribly long, right? It's 2 tours long.
Yeah.
Like 25, 26. I don't remember exactly how long. The exact episode count, but like it's a very digestible number of episodes. Yep. It is appropriately complex for the like time it is given. Everything is developed at a very reasonable pace. It carries a sense of momentum sort of throughout the series, which I mean it is the Gundam series of all time.
So if you're someone who likes when the girls get married and you want a Gundam series that isn't a full-fledged, like, 120 episode space opera, you want something a little more bite-sized, this is it. It's so good. It's so good, you guys.
Speaking of lesbians, Birdie Wing Golf Girl Story really just does it again.
Is it lesbians? I'm still confused.
I can't say for sure. I don't actually really know at this point.
I don't know either.
I didn't think it could get more unhinged, and then it like did. It started pulling out the most like soap opera level plot twist about like who's related to who, and like,
are we actually sisters?
Like, just kidding, we're not sisters, but maybe we are kind of, in like a way, but like we sort of, but not really. This anime is so unhinged. I literally, like, I see that you wrote that you thought they were going to die. I literally also thought that they were going to die by the end of the series. I'm so surprised that they didn't fucking die.
I'm so surprised too, because they kept leading up to it, because they were talking about how much physical toll,
how much that like the golf kills you.
Yes.
It's like golf will put a tumor in your brain.
Yes, one girl, her brain was like dying. The other girl, her body was dying. So I was like, okay, it's just gonna end with the both of them dying, because they're both pushing themselves way past the limit to the point of their bodies couldn't take it anymore, and they kept collapsing in the middle of the goddamn green and having to go to the hospital, and I thought they were gonna die.
Like what they talked about, like the special golf disease or whatever that was going on.
Golf disease.
Nothing that I can say can do the amount of bonkers justice. I think that it is just, if it is something that sounds at all interesting, just I promise you, just watch this fucking series.
It is the wildest sports anime I think I've seen in a really long time. And it was somehow really fulfilling to watch through to the end.
I mean, it ends, right? Like it's like a contained little story. And
I mean, honestly, like, I was shocked that it got a second season.
The thing is, it got a second season.
Yeah.
But it also, like, it was super unhinged, because if you recall, the first season just ended on like a normal episode.
Yes, it did.
There was absolutely zero like cliffhanging. It was all just, it was as if a new episode would come out the next week, which was incredible.
Legendary.
Birdie Wing. Jesus. Right, magical destroyers. Okay.
We knew we would have to talk about this.
Magical destroyers.
Can you explain to me what it's about?
Can I explain to you what it's about?
I watched it and I want you to explain what it's about.
Okay. Magical Destroyers is about magical girls helping the otaku hero unoppress the otaku who have been oppressed in
They
Japan.
live in an alternate version of society where otaku are persecuted and it's illegal to be an otaku.
The thing is, okay, so it turns out that at the end of the show, the plot twist is that they're in a video game world created by a guy who's angry because he was spurned by the internet, and so he created a world in which the internet users were oppressed, I guess. I really couldn't say what this was about either. I can tell you what I wanted it to be about, which is if you just watch the opening and the ending, it looks so fucking interesting, and then it does absolutely nothing. Do you know what it feels like? This show feels like it set up a really interesting premise, set up a really interesting plot twist, and then decided to do a different plot twist on purpose for seemingly no other reason than like seemingly no other reason than just to have a plot twist.
I would tend to agree that this is a show that felt like it was completely riding on the plot twist, the reveal at the end, the huge reveal, and that's what we were watching for.
Yep.
Because they set up the show that way, right? They hint at it with the intro and the ending.
And there's like a bunch of stuff in the latter episodes, yeah.
Yes, exactly. Where they like talk a lot about like psychology and philosophy towards the latter half of the season. They have like a very like it's a kind of like a vague, almost ethereal setup to the world. Like nothing feels fully like concrete or solid, if that makes any sense. Like everything feels kind of like, I don't know, artificial in a way, right? And so all of that like feels like it could lead up well to whatever twist that they had initially been going for, like some kind of existential, like I don't know what the reveal would have ended up being. But the execution of it, like I think it could have worked out that, you know, it ends up being that they're from, you know, a video game world, some kind of other dimension or whatever. The execution of the reveal was just so flat, and it didn't feel like it earned any of the anticipation that it got, right? Any of the fan theory crafting that might have happened, any of the like just it was just like utter confusion from beginning to end, and then it just landed with like a big wet flop.
It really just feels so pointless.
Yeah, like, it felt so pointless.
I hate to say that, right? I hate to say that it feels pointless.
Yeah.
But it does.
It does.
Like there is about zero thematic like connecting tissue.
Yes. And you keep thinking like they introduce all these disparate threads, like, oh, like surely this must be leading up to something, right? Because in a smart series, that's what they would do. Like in Fooly Cooly, there's a ton of disparate things working chaotically, and then in the end, you're like, oh my god, that's what it was about. And then you have to rewatch it like 2 or 3 times to even fully understand what the thing was like trying to fully grasp. Now that you had watched the ending, you can go back and watch the beginning and have the context, right? That's why it's one of the best anime series that's hailed throughout the community for all time. And then this, it felt like they kind of wanted to go for something like that, right? Where they introduced a ton of different stuff. It's like wild and crazy. You don't quite exactly know what's going on. And then in the end, that they might pull it off, and they didn't.
Yeah, like, here's the thing, which is that in my ideal world, this would have been a show about, like, just like, it would have been a show that dissected the, like, otaku psyche and the ways in which, like, women are objectified and the hostility of the space and the almost delusional way in which, like, certain people, like, think about the world. And instead we got just kind of nothing.
Right. I also thought that it would be, like, a good, insightful read on otaku culture, like, from people who had probably experienced it or were in it,
It
you
almost
know?
feels like they were planning on that initially, and then they just changed course in the last couple episodes and decided, nah, we're gonna go for the dumb, easy, simple.
The dumb ending instead.
You should let people like what they like, and it's like, why was that the ultimate thing that we landed on here?
Yeah.
I legitimately do not understand.
They didn't set up the show to be, like, that simple of it, right? Because in that case, like, they kind of sort of had, like, a weird, like, we're like a tokusatsu-ish, magical girls-ish kind of show, but we're kind of hinting at something way deeper than that, right?
Nothing about the opening or ending actually has anything to do at all with the show, which is what's upsetting to me. The opening is so fucking interesting because it's like this well-animated, like, thematically, like, symbolically interesting sequence, and then at the end it just fucking devolves into, like, noise.
Yeah.
And that's so cool.
Yeah.
And you could have done so much with it. And you just did nothing. It feels like such a waste. It was
a waste.
It's so disappointing.
It's a huge waste.
Yeah. I can just confidently say it's just not worth your time.
Legitimately, I felt like I wasted my time watching, and I hate saying that because this was clearly, like, a creative endeavor by a staff of people who I would hope did their best with it. You even got to see, like, their storyboards and everything, and some of the outros.
It almost feels like an anime that was made, like, disparately. Like, everybody built a piece of it, and then they came together at the end and, like, couldn't figure out how to link it all together. And so they just decided the ending by committee. And it's like, it falls so flat. It has nothing to say. It's, like, vapid and empty and not insightful. And, like, that's annoying to me because of how it was set up.
It is annoying. I was so upset.
Okay. Anyway. It's not worth your time. Don't watch it. Don't watch it. Don't watch it. Don't watch it.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about Tengoku Daimakyo real quick, which is probably one of the best animated series this season, which was interesting. It has some of the coolest sequences and scenes.
It is very experimental with its approach on how to, like, convey its story, which I think was super cool. Like, it wasn't necessarily bad in any respect, because the story itself also feels very experimental. Like, it could lend itself to very interesting anime styles.
For sure.
Yeah, so I wasn't upset by that at all. It's very different from your traditional anime watching experience.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for something that's just different, like you're tired of the usual, this could be something worth checking out. But we'll get into more. It feels like one of those.
It feels like one of those series that is, like, a little bit more like. It is a very thought about series in terms of, like, what is going on and the way that things are developed and the way the characters are depicted. Like, I think there was a lot of thought that went into it, and the setup for the world is interesting. The development is also interesting, and like the mysteries are engaging, and the animation for the most part is good. And then there's like moments where it just it just all comes together. I think it's a very well put together anime. Like, big content warning, there is a really pretty bad sexual assault sort of thing that happens at the end of it.
It was very bad.
That's not like, Gucci. It's
yes.
Yeah.
A person is held against their will. They're kidnapped, and then they are assaulted.
Not great.
It's very, very bad. There's no way around it. It is terrible.
Putting that aside, it is. It's good. It is
the show.
Yes, the show is very good. It's a very it's a very textured show. It feels very put together and complex.
I don't know what the point of the terrible.
I don't understand what the point of that was either. I think it was pointless.
I think it was kind of pointless. Yeah, I'm kind of. That's the one part of the show that upset me, because overall, it's extremely interesting. Mm-hmm. It's basically about the downfall of society. There's monsters around for some reason. We don't know why. We're trying to figure it out with the characters as they explore the world. They're trying to get to this place that has to do with heaven somehow. And they're traveling through the world, so you get to learn about the world through their eyes. There's also some a weird like flashback kind of scenario that happens where it revolves around these kids in an institution. They're raised in isolation. You don't know what's going on with them, but they've got some weird powers and stuff that's hecky, and they don't know anything about like reproduction or anything like that either. They've never been taught about like proper society in that regard, or how the world works. And you're trying to figure out the link between that world, the flashback, like what happened over there, and what's happening in the with the main characters that we're following in the current timeline. There's so many cool things that happen in this show in terms of world building. Like, it's really, really interesting. And each episode tends to end on some kind of like weird cliffhanger where you have some weird discovery that just brings up more questions. So it keeps you vastly interested. And I just don't understand the point of that scene, that event.
That
and
aside,
I don't
though,
like that.
It is good.
Yeah. Overall, the show is really good. I'm hoping that maybe at some point they'll bring some meaning to what happened. I mean, the guy, like, he got away. he still exists in the world. The guy who did the bad thing. So he might come up again. This is definitely a show that needs a second season. Is it an original?
No, it's based on a manga.
Oh, okay. But so it might get a second season.
But the anime appears to be taking from beyond what the manga has depicted.
Oh, okay. So it's like going beyond the material?
They talked to the creator, who basically gave them the like outline for the rest of the series. Which I think is actually really cool. I think it's really cool, the concept of just like giving the layout and letting the director build it from the very beginning. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
okay. Yeah. If you're interested in that, definitely check it out.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Yeah, I think that's it then. Who are you?
Everything.
Yeah. Who are you? Where can we find you on the internet?
Hi, I am Swan, also known as Renu. You can find me on Twitter and Tumblr, Facebook, Etsy, all that kind of stuff. Twitch, all at Swandrawn. You can find me on Instagram at swan.drawn. I am currently playing through Yakuza 3. It's a fun time. I think I'm like 3/4 of the way through the game, apparently. One of my friends told me I was pretty far in. So that's exciting. I hope to wrap that up pretty soon. And then in October we'll be streaming spooky games, so that's your thing. Come on over to my Twitch. Other than that, you can catch me doing artwork and stuff like that on my social media.
Nice.
Yep. How about you?
Well, you can find me all the places at Literal Soup. If I'm on a place, it's probably there. And, yeah, I'm not doing anything terribly exciting on the internet. I've kind of become a reclusive hermit, like, somehow more so than I've already been. Yeah. And the patrons we're thanking today are Evan Williams, Magpie Meritest, Claire, Sean Dow, Cherubel, and Dylan Boats. Thank you so much for the support, as always. Yes, so we will see you next time.
See you next time!
さようなら。また明日ね。